Well, good morning on April the 12th. And yep, there's snow business like snow business. Like snow business, ice snow. And here we are in the snow. Between snows, actually. It's supposed to snow again after this one. Another 5 centimeters tonight. It'll probably melt a little bit on the roads as the day goes along, even though it's below freezing. But definitely on the white side again, as I threatened yesterday. I said, I wonder if it'll be white tomorrow when I do this, and sure enough, it's white. So, I'm just going to avoid whatever the heck it is they're doing down there. There's a whole lot of work going on down that street, and between me and the footbridge. So we'll go down this side. Broken water main or something, I would guess. So it's -3. I'm wearing my weather jacket again for 2 reasons. One, because it's -3, not that cold, and I'll be warm in it, but my parka actually, not a winter jacket. The other one is that my leather jacket got a rip in it yesterday, so I have to take it to get it fixed. They're digging into the ground there pretty deep, so probably a water line break. Didn't point the camera at them, wasn't sure they'd appreciate that. Sidewalks are a little slippery, wasn't counting on that. Be careful. Roads are probably slippery too. But up on the dike it'll be alright, because that's just dirt underneath it. Yeah, a bit of packed snow. Anyway, I'm walking anyway. Trying to get that where it should be. There we go. And I'm writing after that. Tangled Stars today is my focus. Got a little nonfiction work to do this week, but I gotta somehow push through this slow writing. I'm usually a very fast writer if things are going. I can crank out a lot of words, but for some reason, finding it hard to focus. Well, the Kickstarter didn't help, but that's wrapped up now. If you're just finding this video, I ran a Kickstarter in March to fund a anthology of short stories by authors who were guests during the second year of my Aurora Award-winning podcast, World Shapers, where I interview other science fiction and fantasy authors about creative process. And I am myself, of course, an author of science fiction and fantasy and nonfiction. So I started the podcast at the same time as my current series with Daw Books, The World Shapers, started. World Shapers was the name of the book series. The World Shapers is the name of the podcast. Because the World Shapers series set in this labyrinth of shaped worlds where the people who shaped those worlds live within them. They're all from our world originally. They were basically given a world to do with as they pleased. And they pleased to do some pretty strange things in cases. And my main character was the shaper of her world but didn't know it. Shauna Keys is her name. Which, by the way, is a play on Gaelic or storyteller or something like that. I'd have to do my own research again to remember exactly, but that's where the name came from. So she found out that the world she thought was the only world there was, and it's very similar to ours, but certainly not the same. She had actually shaped, but she'd forgotten. She doesn't know why she forgot. Neither does Carl Yatzer, who's the mysterious stranger who shows up and tells her what's going on. And he's being pursued by someone called the Adversary, who wants to get to Igraire, mysterious woman at the center of the labyrinth, and the one who opened the gate and trained shapers in our world and then gave them worlds to shape. Why Shauna doesn't remember that, nobody knows yet in the series. I kind of do. And it will eventually come out if I can keep writing the series long enough. Here we are in the dike, but at least the creek is remaining open water, as one would expect. So in the first book, World Shaper, she finds out that she's the shaper and she has to escape the adversary, and Karl Yatzer, because of something she does, setting time back 3 hours after her best friend is killed in what seems to be a terrorist attack, doesn't save her friend. Her friend is still dead, but nobody else remembers she ever existed. One thing that demonstrates to her quite perfectly that she is indeed the shaper. Karl says that power means that he thinks she is strong enough to gather the knowledge called the Chokhmah, which is a Hebrew word for wisdom, of the shaping of all of the shaped worlds they can get to, and convey that to a Greer who was attacked and is wounded and needs this Chokhmah brought to her so she can rebind the kind of web of power that keeps the labyrinth together. And thereby hangs a series. So Shauna, first book, she's basically pursued across her world, which is a version of our world. What are some of the differences? The president is a woman who lives in the Emerald Palace, not the White House. Kite fighting is a big college sport. The Da Vinci Code was a musical on Broadway. I have fun with those kinds of jokes. The joke is that the water seems low on the creek. If they let more water or some ice let go or something. It's just slower than I remember it. Anyway, the Da Vinci Code is a musical on Broadway, and my joke is that Hugh Jackman did the best he could, but he just couldn't save the show. So she gets chased across her world. Spoiler, she gets out of her world. Book 2 is, well, first of all, she's lost her guide, Karl Yatzer, so she's on her own in book 2. She doesn't have any shaping power in this new world. Until she gets the Chokhmah of a world, she can't use her own power in it. And it's a world that was shaped by someone who really liked Jules Verne, so it's a steampunky world with floating islands and airships and submarines and all that kind of good stuff, weird weapons. So I had a lot of fun with that. And then book 3, the most recent one, the Moonlit World, I usually sum up as, oh, I guess the water's where it was. It's just there was something about the snow that made the bank look different. Werewolves and vampires and peasants. Oh my, that's the Moonlit World. Because that's what's in it. Shaped by someone who liked werewolves and vampires. I won't say any more about it than that because it could be a spoiler, but check them out if you're interested. They are available everywhere. Well, you might have a hard time in some bookstores at this point, but you can certainly get them online. Hope this isn't too slippery. If you happen to be watching this live, drop me a note on Facebook or YouTube. I will see it. Probably will see it today with the cloudy skies. Anyway, so I started the World Shapers podcast at the same time, partly because it kind of tied together with the idea of people who shape worlds and writers, because that's what writers do. And also because I thought about a podcast for a long time. I've hosted my own TV show, community TV here, Net Talk. People used to phone in with questions about computers. It's a phone-in show. And I mostly said, that's a very interesting question, Bob, and turned to the expert who was with me. So I was kind of the MC host guy. I answered what questions I could. And then I've hosted a radio program of my own on CJTR, is that it? I think, the community radio station here. And of course I was on CBC Radio talking about science every week for 17 years. So, and I was a newspaper reporter and I interviewed tons of people for that, and I've done freelance work as a newspaper writer. So interviewing people is something I'm used to doing. So I thought about doing a podcast for a long time, never got around to it, and then it seemed to tie in so well with a new book series that I did. And it's been successful, and I've interviewed amazing authors, and last year I kickstarted Shapers of Worlds, an anthology featuring first-year guests, and this year I've kickstarted successfully Shakers of Worlds Volume 2, featuring second-year guests. And the success of those two Kickstarters probably means next year, about this time, I'll be kickstarting Volume 3. So that's what I did last week, but because it wrapped up last Thursday. Now I'm waiting for the money to come in. I'm already starting to get stories. I'll have to be editing, but once I have the money, I can contract the authors, pay them for their stories, and get into the whole editing and layout and all that stuff. Oh, here, there is a city vehicle coming my way. I'll just step off. But that means focus on the tangled stars is becoming more and more important, and I've been having a hard time focusing. Hopefully today I will write a good chunk. I mean, I've written fairly good sized chunks, but I should be doing far more words per day than I have been. So there's various reasons for that, but the Kickstarter was certainly one of them. As I've said before, you know, sure, I'm a freelance writer. I always work from home, but I actually don't. I've discovered I'm more productive if I can get out of home and go to a coffee shop or something. And I could go down that way just to be different, work my way over there. But I think I won't. I don't really know what the snow situation is over there. Anyway, I'll do that some other time. So far, nobody has checked in to say hi, but if you're watching this live, please do. If you're watching this as a recording, well, welcome to winter. Take what? This is the third time I've taken a walk in the snow after it all melted, and then it came back. So I guess this is winter take 4. The first one I walked on a Saturday morning, and it was all white, and by afternoon it was gone. Then, about a week ago today, actually, I guess. Is that just a week ago? I walked in quite a nasty snowstorm with howling wind, and I took a brief walk outside during that, an extra walk, just to show, especially, you know, my southern friends, what Saskatchewan is all about. And then last night it started snowing again, and so we're back. Another blast of winter here on April the 12th, after Easter. Maybe nobody's watching because it's too depressing. I don't know. Oh, I know. Monday morning, people have, you know, they think whatever it is they're doing is more important than watching me, like working or whatever. Clearly, their priorities are screwed up. They should be watching me. The whole world should be watching me. If they did, I could make money at this, but that seems an unlikely outcome. Unlike the guy I always quote, who's my inspiration for this, walking commuter in Manhattan. He gets money because he has thousands of subscribers, and that's enough. You can, I think, 1,000 subscribers before you can monetize something like this. And I have 56 at last count, I think, maybe 57. So got a ways to go. I don't know why. Surely walking in Regina is every bit as fascinating as walking in Manhattan. I mean, I repeat myself on these walks, but he repeats himself even in Manhattan. You know, he goes through Central Park, goes by Rockefeller Center, all that stuff. He's walked across the Brooklyn Bridge. I've walked across the Albert Street Bridge. He showed you the towers of downtown Manhattan. I showed you the towers of downtown Regina. A tower is a tower, surely. Although I suspect there's some difference between, say, our tallest building, which is maybe 20 stories, and, you know, you can't even see those in New York. They're just background noise to the real buildings, the tall buildings. It's always interesting to think of one of those really tall skyscrapers from Toronto or New York, what it would look like plopped down in the middle of Regina. For one thing, it would provide every bit of office space needed for everybody in the one building, I suspect. Especially now, with a lot of people are going to keep working from home, I suspect, post-pandemic. It's going to be interesting and probably scary what happens to downtowns, how empty they may become. And of course that means coffee shops and things like that can't make a living. So we'll see what governments do about that. The bus is stopping for me, which is nice. I'm just following the standard path here today. Wherever it is, under the snow somewhere. Bit of a breeze, so I'm glad I'm wearing my hat. And even though the park is already starting to feel warm, in the wind it's not unwelcome. So here's the park now. I just walked on the other side of the creek there yesterday and it was all brown and dry and leaves are budding out, but it's winter again. The other thing coming up that I've mentioned is Flip the Script, which is Regina Lyric Musical Theatre's upcoming online production. Gender swapped Broadway songs. You can get tickets at reginalyric.com, wherever you are in the world. If you want to see me in front of the camera, I will be singing 2 songs. One is a duet with my wife, and one is just me. Except I'm singing a quartet, so it's 4 of me. So I can't wait to see what that looks like. We'll be done in front of a green screen. I don't know what will be on the green screen. Well, I have a good idea. I have revealed what that song is previously, but I'm really supposed to keep it secret. So I'm not telling anybody, the nobody who's watching, or the nobody who watches this later. Not quite fair. I do get a couple of dozen views of the recording. There's probably somebody catching bits of it on Facebook Live anyway, if not on YouTube. Just not leaving a comment. There's the river with a formation of ducks or geese. Geese, I think. With the wind in my eyes, some branches between here and there, it was hard to be sure. But yes. There they are. Geese. It's just about egg-laying time for them. And then there'll be baby geese everywhere. And then you get these teenage geese, which are kind of gangly. And then by fall, they're all grown up and ready to fly south for the winter. Unless they overwinter here. Some did, or do. I think geese don't have to have open water. Ducks do. If I remember right from when I wrote my little children's book about the first pair of geese in Wascana Center. Hiawatha, I think her name was. Is that right? I keep saying that, but it may not be right. Anyway, there's a book in the Science Center that I wrote, illustrated by Ward Shell, that talks about the introduction of geese to Wascana Center, and I'm not sure everybody thinks that was such a great idea. We'll look this way. All open now, not even any, maybe a little floating ice right on that corner, but mostly no ice left. Nice to see some comment from somebody watching this live, if you're there, even if it's just a hi. Otherwise, well, as I've said before, Carrying this thing around is rather like having an imaginary playmate as a kid. I can imagine all sorts of people watching me. It's like, hi, Mr. Prime Minister, or Mr. Premier, or big time celebrity. If you are a big time celebrity producer and you think I'm absolutely wonderful, I'm ready at any time to sign the standard rich and famous contract. We watched the Muppet Movie last night, which is, this big cross-country trip as Kermit tries to get to Hollywood and picks up friends along the way while being pursued by a guy who wants him to be the spokesman for his line of Frog Legs restaurants. And when they get there, Orson Welles is the big shot executive they finally get in to see. And Kermit says, I came here to be rich and famous. Orson Welles looks at him and he calls the secretary, like Cloris Leachman, and says, draw up the standard rich and famous contract for Kermit the Frog. So, if anyone would like to draw up for me a standard rich and famous contract, I am ready to sign on the dotted line. Now there is someone, Lisa Lindo, who's quite taken with the World Shaper series and is working hard to see if she can find a studio that would be interested in adapting it as a TV series. I'm down with that, but I'm not holding my breath, which is a good thing because talking and walking with a little bit of snow on the ground, I don't have any breath left to hold. Not much anyway. If I held my breath, I'd probably fall over. I'm trying to keep up the pace. This is about exercise, not just entertaining you fine folk. If there are any fine folk that watch this, if you're a not fine folk and you're watching this, that's fine too. As long as you're watching, I'm not judging. Watching the Muppet Movie. It came out when I was in university, like my last semester, I think. Because I'm sure I saw it at my university, Harding University in Searcy, Arkansas. One of the movies they didn't have to censor because as a Christian school, they would actually censor anything they thought was too naughty for their college students. But I don't think they had to censor the Muppet Movie. And it's just interesting. It's a reminder of my childhood to see all those big stars that are in it, like Milton Berle and Steve Martin, all the people who were current stars, Mel Brooks, and a lot of them are dead now. The others are much older, which is weird because I'm exactly the same age as I was in 1979. Although 1979 me might not have been breathing quite as hard while trying to walk in the snow and talk. It's hard to say. 1979 me weighed a good 30 or 40 pounds more than current me. So my eating habits in university were not good, to say the least. I actually lost a lot of weight just as soon as I came home from university and quit eating, an entire large pizza by myself, or my morning breakfast of powdered mini donuts and Coke, and not Diet Coke either. Oh, I shudder to think of it now. Well, I don't really. Sounds kind of good, but I can't do that again. Never again. Never again. Well, there's some people out here, and not with dogs either. Unusual. Merry Christmas. standard walk that I was doing without a camera back in the fall. I started using this as my sort of standard exercise path, mainly because I was peeved by the restrictions of you're only supposed to walk one way around this kind of lake, which is just silly because nobody's catching it from passing you on a windy lakeshore side. In fact, I would suggest even if you met someone infected, you're probably more likely to get it by walking behind them in their wake. But I don't think you're likely to get it at all outside, because that's what the research shows. So they still have those signs up, and I think they're just ludicrous. But a lot of the stuff we've been doing is theater more than anything real. As you can see, when you look at the statistics from around the world, there seems to be no correlation between tough lockdowns and the course of the pandemic. But everybody bought into it, and it's kind of that sunk cost thing. No government is going to dare say they were wrong to begin with. So they keep doubling down. My 2 cents worth on that topic. Anyway, so I started walking this way and then jogging. But my knees didn't like that, so I don't think I'll try to do that again. Oh, that was uphill in the snow while trying to talk. Okay. Basco Street. Got to keep half an eye on the road in case I find an unexpected patch of snow. Still, nobody has said hi today. Took one look at the snow and said, I don't want to know about that. That looks awful. Oh, you're probably hearing wind noise now, too. Wind seems to be blowing, say, north by northwest. Doesn't feel like it's quite in my face from due north. And that's not too far to the west, so northwest or north by northwest. And then we turn east, and that's the start of the Homeward Leg, which is shorter because it doesn't have that curly path that I followed as I came into the park. It's a straight shot from here back to Elphinstone. If I take it, I can also zigzag a little, which I might, but same distance either way because it's all right angles. Anyone watching? Nobody at all. Yesterday I had several comments, but then that was the weekend. I don't remember the dates for the Flip the Script with Regina Lyric Musical Theatre, reginalyric.com, but we're supposed to have our recordings in by next week sometime, and we're waiting to get our music files. We were going to record them all in one place, but with increased restrictions here because of the upsurge, especially here in Regina, we've decided to, everybody's going to shoot it at home. Which means sound quality is going to be somewhat all over the map, I'm sure. The gimbal that I'm using here is called the Osmo 3. I bought a little tripod along with it. It's screwed into the handle. You have a tripod. That should be helpful when we're shooting. our stuff instead of having to hand hold it. I'm supposed to get a green screen dropped off because for my quartet with myself, I have to do all 4 parts one at a time in front of the green screen, and then they'll all be blended together to make me look like a quartet in front of the appropriate background. Can't wait to see it. I hope it turns out well so I can share it widely. If it turns out badly, I'll pretend it never existed. I do have a few videos of me singing on this same channel. Walking in Regina is rapidly taking over. In fact, I'm sure there's more Walking in Regina videos now than anything else on my channel. But I have posted a few things of me singing. And even the show I wrote for Lyric, it's 2 years ago now, called The Music Shop, that's what it was called. You can find that. It's been demonetized, not that it was ever monetized, because we were performing the songs under I can't remember the name of the organization. Anyway, the Canadian one that covers public performances of songs. But they got, some of them got copyright hits against them, but they didn't take down the video. So if you're curious, you can see that entire thing. It was quite well done, I thought. There's 2 performances because I had 2 different girls playing the teen girl role because of school conflicts and things like that, and to give more opportunity. So there's 2 performances, one of each of the girls' performances. So check that out if you're interested. And there's stuff like me singing at my writer-in-residence reception in 2019 when I started at Saskatoon Public Library as writer-in-residence. I sang with Deb Buck, who's a wonderful accompanist in Saskatoon, whom I've known for a long time, whom I kissed on stage because she played my wife in Tent Meeting, a show in Rosthern at the Station Arts Centre. That would have been in 2000, I guess. Same year I played Tevye and Fiddle on the Roof here. And I got hired up there, partly through her good graces, I think she suggested me. And had a great time. That was like a, 30 or 40 performance run. Living in Rosthern. I don't remember if I came home on the weekends. I think maybe I did. And Margaret Ann came up to visit while I was up there. Let's see. I guess I'll go down by the bulk wheels here. Bulk Wilson. Being careful on the road. So that production was directed by Tibor Fehergazi, who was the founder and artistic director at Persephone Theatre in Saskatoon. And he told me that I was a very good actor, and he hired me for Who Has Seen the Wind at Persephone that fall, which was cool. And he asked me to go back to Rosthern the next year, but the next year we were having a baby. And much as I love the theater, I think I do have my priorities right when it comes to stuff like that. And so I said, no, I had to stay close to home. And he never asked me again. I don't know if he felt that that was the wrong priority and I should have taken the opportunity. He might have. But I did talk to him on another occasion. He told me again I was a very good actor, so it was very nice to hear from Tibor. He had a lot of experience. And the next time I did a Persephone show, Tibor had died not too long before that. That was in 2007. The only other time I've done a Persephone theater show. and that was Beauty and the Beast. And the first show in their new theater at the Remay Art Center, where the art gallery also moved. Remay Modern, it's called now. Used to be the Mendel. So the art gallery's all been built on there since I did that show. In fact, when we started the show, there was construction work still going on. We began our rehearsal in the old Persephone Theatre space, which was an old converted school, and which is where I'd done Who Has Seen the Wind. And then we moved into the theater just as soon as we could, because we had massive sets, taking advantage of all this new space. You know, half a castle, that sort of thing. Houses for the village. When we moved in, it was winter time, so there were a couple of things. One was there was a hole in the ceiling of the fly space, and of course it was winter. I'm trying to avoid, there's these big puddles here I'm trying not to step in. It looks like they might be quite deep. I have no choice, I have to go into this slush. I am trapped. Maybe if I go over here I can find a drier path. I can't tell how deep it is and I don't want to get my feet wet. Anyway, so it was freezing cold on stage. And then the other thing was that the air was thick with cement dust. So much so that our leading man playing the Beast, Paul Nolan, now known as Paul Alexander Nolan, and a big Broadway star, starred in several shows on Broadway. In fact, I think he just sang the national anthem for the Yankees home opener or something like that. He lost his voice for a couple of weeks. He was quite worried, obviously, because that's his career. And good grief. I guess I'll stick over here. It's probably not as deep as it looks, but it's really hard to tell. If I go all the way over here, I think I can avoid anything that looks like a significant puddle. And another cast member actually had to sing his big song for him. He could do his dialogue, but he was mic'd, and normally nobody was mic'd in that space. One of Tibor's preferences for a theater was that it could be done without mics. I don't know what they're doing now, but none of us were mic'd except him and somebody else who got sick along the way, because it was a long run. But fortunately, his voice recovered, as you can tell by the fact he's gone on to Broadway's Success. That was in December of 2007. So with all the concrete dust in the air, we were wearing dust masks while we rehearsed. And with the opening in the fly space right over the stage, we were wearing parkas while we rehearsed. And someone has gotten a picture, which I've posted a couple of times on Facebook, of, I think I'll just go straight down College this time, of all of us doing the kick line at the end of Be My Guest, wearing parkas and dust masks. And somebody posted that at the time, and somebody had gotten back to them and said, where are you rehearsing, Chernobyl? Now, if I posted it, it would just look like we were rehearsing this year during COVID. But that wasn't why we were wearing masks. I played Monsieur Dark, the insane asylum keeper, and various other things like, you know, animated carpet and dancing fork. Townsperson, you know. It has a big cast and we had a small cast, so everybody was doubled up except Belle and the Beast, I think. That was probably my pinnacle of my professional theater career, and that was 14 years ago now. I mean, I've done a couple other things on equity contracts. Well, whenever I direct, because I'm an equity member, they're cast to jump through those hoops. So I get special permission to direct an amateur production. Last professional show I did, though, was now already maybe 4 years ago. And it was a version of A Christmas Carol in Moose Jaw at their beautiful downtown theater, with Rhubarb Productions, which unfortunately is now gone. But that was fun. I would have loved to have done more Rhubarb stuff, but the timing always seemed bad, and that's probably why I haven't done more work. Much as I enjoy doing it, I'll look at a show and say, well, if I did that, I couldn't do this. Like, you know, we couldn't take our vacation or whatever. And I tend to choose family and writing. I mean, writing is always my priority. Although you can get a lot of writing done when you're doing a show. A professional rehearsal schedule, unless you're in every scene, which most people aren't, because there are days when you aren't called. And of course you have Mondays off. And even when you're on call, you're often just sitting around waiting for your scene. And once I had a laptop, which I did as of Who Has Seen the Wind, I was able to do a little IBM ThinkPad. I was able to do a lot of writing. And when we did Beauty and the Beast, I was writing a sequel to Marseguro, Terra Insegura. And mostly got it written, I think, while I was doing that show. And once the show's running, you know, you got all day. So I would sit in Starbucks on Broadway Avenue there and write, which is why there are several characters in Terra Insegura who have the same last names as cast members in Beauty and the Beast from Persephone Theatre in 2007. Oh, there's someone. Oh, hi, Long. Good morning. I'm almost done here. Getting close to home again. Here in Calgary, one of my professional acting gigs once was to portray Walter Scott, the first premier of Saskatchewan, for the Hill Company's centennial. And I did it here. And they liked what I did so much, they flew me to Calgary and had me do it there. And one of the people in this is Mike Crescent. One of the people in the audience was the premier, Ralph Klein, at the time. So I got to make fun of Alberta and my guys as the premier of Saskatchewan in front of the premier of Alberta. That was fun. Also, they put me in a nice hotel and, you know, paid for everything, so that was nice. I've done a couple of the sort of corporate things. But again, acting is a sideline, much as I love it. I didn't pursue it the way I would have had to make it the main part of my career. And although I was going to audition for another production of Beauty and the Beast at Persephone Theatre last year, in fact, I did audition. I sent my tape, not a tape, but they still call them tapes. COVID killed that in the whole season, so I'm not getting any younger, so at this point I'll be playing character roles mostly, if I get any parts. I never was a leading man type, though. I was always playing character roles. I don't have leading man looks or dancing ability. I got by with that production of Beauty and the Beast in Saskatoon on the dancing, but it was only because we had lots of rehearsal. Not because I have any natural aptitude for it. Unlike my daughter, who took ballet and tap from, and later lyrical, from age 3, and was a very good dancer, especially a tap dancer. She loves tap. But me, especially growing up in the Church of Christ where dancing was frowned on, there was no way my parents would ever have thought to put one of their sons in a dancing program. And I kind of regret it. once I got into theater, I really regretted it, not having any dancing ability. I did take one dance class from the conservatory here. It was a little odd. It was modern dance. And it was like 3 people, me and 2 girls, if I remember right. One of whom was about 12, and I was in my 30s at the time. So, and yet, I did my best, and I quite enjoyed it. I don't think it helped me on stage, but it was interesting. One of those things I did once, like skydiving. I did that once, never did it again. Thought I'd do it again, but I went out to Moose Jaw with my shiny new first jump certificate. I thought, I'll take a second jump. And it was too windy for novice jumpers, so I waited. And while I was waiting, one of the experienced jumpers landed badly and broke her arm. And I thought, you know, I need my arms. I'm a rider. And I was never tempted to go out again. It's quite the experience once, though. He's shoveling his walk. I was just kind of hoping to leave it till it melts. Although it is a bit icy, I probably should shove it. Maybe I'll do that even as soon as I get home before I go in. Okay, this is our usual stopping intersection. You can see they're still working away down there on the water main break or whatever it is. I'm taking off my gloves. So thank you for joining me either live or on the recording. Bye for now.